my mother-in-law, she plants, vegetables and stuff.
Right.
She brings over the abundance of vegetables for free.
Right.
We don't have to live in a world like this.
That's right.
And that's what's going to come to an end. We don't need, unlimited amount of debt, and we don't need to be driving all the places that we have. We need to start focusing internally, and that's what's going to happen with the decentralization of power.
Well, listen, Chris, we've got a call for you, but before I get to the call, I'm going to give out that number again. That number is area code 803-748-9293, 748-9293. And caller, you are on the air with Chris Duane.
Hello, Tazima.
Hi, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. Hello, Chris.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, good. Chris, how old are you?
38.
38. Okay. Well, I'm a little older than you, and I remember living through a time where everyone was building bomb shelters in their backyard because of the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yes.
And I equate that with kind of what's going on today. Now, I understand what you're saying, and I understand that, you do have valid points, and we are kind of in a very, very screwed up situation.
Yes.
But, there's a guy on the radio on another network that constantly has advertisers for, the end of the world is coming. You got to buy gold. You got to buy silver. You got to grow your own food. I think he just moved to a farm. And I understand all that, but I really don't want to go there because it's very complicated. And I know that we're going to hit a point where, the bill is going to come due. But I would like to think that we're going to, just like the Cuban Missile Crisis and the people that built silos in their backyard and they stored food for years. I mean, that's still going on. You got people in Wyoming and Montana and North Dakota and South Dakota that are survivalists.
Even Y2K. I mean, that's even
Y2K was another example. I mean, I was involved in that to a certain extent because it cost us a fortune in trying to figure out what to do with our computers. And as it turned out, nothing ever happened.
Yep.
So how much of this is alarmist extremism, if you want to call it that?
Excellent question. I totally appreciate that. Let me give you, John Nash, A Beautiful Mind. He worked out game theory.
Right.
And this is something that the guys that run the show have spent a ton of money on, and they know a lot about human nature. And what John Nash basically came up with is that, in the game theory that, he would use games like Kidnapper's Dilemma and stuff like that. And when there's two powers that are equally psychopathic and, want to control the world and stuff, and they know that if there was this mutually assured destruction, that's what ended up coming out of it because they both sides figured out, well, gee, if we launch one missile, the other guy's going to launch the other missile, and it's an end game. So, the Cuban Missile Crisis, well, yes, I can understand. I mean, if I was living during that time, I'm sure I'd be going through the same thing. There was almost a human nature aspect of it that it's not going to happen because there's no winning for anybody else. The best way to win the game is, in the war games thing, was not to play. The Y2K, computers, I think it got blown up a little bit more, so, some programmers can make some more money, fixing systems that they didn't really need to fix.
But where are we today? We're in kind of...
and that's what I'm trying to get to. What I'm talking about is 100% mathematical. There's no human nature involved. This is math, okay? And that we cannot continue to accumulate debt. I mean, just look at our current, your kids' generation, okay? $1 trillion of student loan debt. Can you imagine the baby boomers were loaded up with $1 trillion of student loan debt before they even went out and found their own job? I mean, we've totally destroyed these kids' futures. And
I know, but we have an amazing potential in this country. I mean, I watch it every day, and certain areas of the economy are coming back slowly, but you have to kind of think that we can get over the hump. And we can figure out the deficit problems because they're long-term. What we need to do is get rid of everybody in Washington and get some new minds in there.
But that's not going to happen.
I know. It's going to be difficult, but eventually something's going to happen because I would like to think eventually people are going to wake up to the cold, hard facts as you're describing. And the alternative isn't, I don't know that the country is prepared to grow their own food and stock up on gold.
No, they're not.
And I think that's the sad part. I don't know about the gold part, but I do know, or I believe that it's really sad that we don't know how to grow our own food. I mean, that's just basic.
I can grow flowers, and some of them are edible, I think.
But to this point, because I think this is one of the best questions I've had, because, I mean, obviously you're a rational, intelligent person. Obviously, you're a little bit older than me.
My wife thinks so.
and I'm not trying to butter you up, but I'm just trying to tell you when you go through this process. Well, I start on the mathematical part of it that every dollar that comes into existence is a dollar's worth of debt, and that every dollar that comes into existence, that debt has interest attached onto it.
Right, and we pay, I think, 40 cents of every dollar goes towards us paying the interest on what we've borrowed.
Okay, Jeff, you're going to have to let him respond to your question.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Go on, Chris.
That's all right. I'm good at talking over people, too. As the debt accumulates, the interest payments go higher and higher because there's just more physical debt. The reason why we've been able to sustain this is because we have a privately owned Federal Reserve that's artificially buying bonds to drive down the interest rates. I mean, do you really think that, inflation's only running at, 1% or whatever the Fed funds rate is now? No, they're artificially lowering it to try to juice the economy to get things going. And you mentioned parts of the economy that are going. I guarantee you they probably have to do with some sort of bailout, some sort of government contract, because the private economy in the real world is suffering. We're still running with higher costs. I mean, health insurance costs and energy costs and all this other stuff. And the point is that we cannot continue to accumulate debt. And right now, the only people that are left in the world to accumulate debt, because everybody's tapped out, baby boomers, Generation X, millennials, states, corporations, cities. We got cities in Stockton, California going bankrupt. We got,
San Bernardino.
How is it possible? Everybody in the world's broke. Everybody's in debt.
Yeah.
The only ones that are left are the privately owned central banks, and they're printing currency out of thin air. And my point is that at the end of this road, no real recovery will happen in this economy until all the debt's wiped away. And the reality of that fact is going to be a very traumatic experience for a lot of people. And I believe that our end of the road is that the Ben Bernanke's, the Obamas, or if Mitt Romney gets in, doesn't matter which party gets in, the debt's going to continue to go up. We're going to continue to have more wars. More jobs are going to get shipped overseas. More wealth is going to accumulate up to those that own the power and control the rules in Washington. So.
Okay, Jeff. So is that it? Because I got to open up the lines.
No, it isn't. Listen, and that's the other thing I try to say. Like, you start to look at it like it's a negative thing. To me, I've gotten to a point now where it's a part of life, and I think that there's going to be so much more good that comes out of this. Like, look at personal setbacks in your own private life. I mean, I had, terrible relationships with my parents and, dramatic moves and all that other stuff. Every single setback in my own personal life has led me to a set up for something much better. And I think humanity on the whole, while I think there's still going to be a lot of horror and terror and a lot of bad things that are going to happen, humanity on the whole has the ability to leave a much better life, because we will finally learn that we don't need to live a world based on debt and death. Right. And that's what's been going on for 6,000 years. We get these psychopaths in charge of a centralized power structure. They rig the game in their favor. They accumulate more wealth up to the top by selling a lie down to the bottom of the people. And then when they run out of wealth from there, they go out and conquer some other guy. We don't need that. Most of the people in the world just want to be left alone.
Right.
And we can't set up systems that are sustainable and, that you would have with your own personal relationship. You wouldn't, if you were the president of the United States with all that government and power, you wouldn't do that to your own friends and family. So why are we setting up and enabling the most aggressive narcissists in the world to control us?
All right.
Well,
listen,
I think
Jeff,
it starts with the people that we elect for Congress.
Well, Jeff, listen, I'm going to have to let other people get
in.
Okay.
Good night.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, I think that you made some valid points there, Chris. Let me give out the number real quick again. If you're listening and you want to call in and talk with Chris Duane, the telephone number is area code 803-748-9293, 803-748-9293, and I'm going back to the phone lines. Okay, you're on the line with Chris Duane.
Is that me?
Yes.
Have you been?
Hey, how have you been?
Great. I'm back 2 days ago. By the way, the last caller said he was around when the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Right.
So I guess he has some age more than us. So doesn't he know that about 85% plus of these present politicians get reelected over and over again? So how can he say we got to throw them all out when he keep on reelecting them?
Right.
So this idea hasn't worked for the past God knows how many years.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
And to your guest, I want to ask you a question. Are we supposed to learn anything the way the economy's been in places like Cuba and Haiti, where suffering and economic problems have been on for at least 60 years. I mean, we keep on talking about increasing the debt. Seems like it's not a shame. It's not shameful anymore to have a debt, just like it's not shameful enough anymore to be divorced for the third or fourth time or have 5 kids out of marriage. Are we losing something practical, pragmatic? I mean, what happened to home economics or basic economics? Are we getting worse as our kids get to be middle-aged and so forth and so on? I'm going to hang up, and thank you for your time.
Okay.